He thought it was just a stray dog, until the German Shepherd spoke with his eyes. He never suspected that a routine walk through Central Park would change his life forever. At first glance, the German Shepherd looked just like any other stray dog, weary eyes, matted fur, and a cautious stance that hinted at too many nights spent wandering alone. Yet, beneath the unkempt coat and tired gaze, there was something intangible, a silent plea that went beyond the usual hunger or thirst. In that moment, as the dog locked eyes with him, an unspoken promise was forged. Little did he know that this simple act of compassion would lead him on an extraordinary journey of transformation. He had never been so sure that some creature was trying to tell him something with just a glance. Leon Fischer considered himself an ordinary soul in an extraordinary city. After years of living in Manhattan, he had grown accustomed to the bustle of busy streets, the honking of cabs, and the constant movement that never seemed to stop. Yet amidst the towering buildings, neon lights, and endless flow of people, he found solace in his daily ritual, a walk through Central Park each afternoon. For Leon, this green expanse was his slice of peace, where skyscrapers gave way to old oak trees and meandering paths around tranquil lakes. On a crisp autumn day, golden leaves danced on the breeze, rustling across the paved walkway. Leon's breath billowed in little white clouds beneath a sky the color of polished steel. Tourists ambled around him, snapping pictures of the Bethesda fountain or the vibrant foliage that turned the park into a mosaic of copper, amber, and rust. He had paused near the boathouse, mesmerized by the gentle ripples across the lake, when something tugged at the corner of his vision. He turned to see a German Shepherd standing several yards away. At first glance, the dog looked scruffy, its fur dusty, its eyes large and downcast. Leon instinctively guessed it might be a stray that had somehow wandered into the park. The dog was skittish yet intrigued, tilting its head at him as if it recognized something in his stance or perhaps in the way he stood, quiet and observant. Leon had always considered himself a dog person, but he'd never adopted one or spent much time around animals. As a freelance writer, he could barely keep up with his irregular schedule and the demands of city life. Yet that day, something about the German Shepherd compelled him to inch closer. The dog's ears perked up, tension vibrating through its body. Slowly, Leon crouched. He rummaged through the pocket of his coat, finding half a granola bar. He broke off a piece and offered it, uncertain if the dog would even take such a meager morsel. Still, the animal sniffed the air, one hesitant step, then another, until it was close enough for Leon to see the myriad colors in its gaze, flecks of gold, brown, and a ring of black that gave it the most expressive eyes he had ever seen on a dog. Those eyes were not merely hungry. They carried stories within them, stories of abandonment, perhaps heartbreak, but also a quiet persistence, a resilience that refused to be quenched. Leon dared not move too quickly, but he spoke in soothing tones, telling the dog it was going to be okay, that nobody would hurt it. With every syllable, he felt slightly foolish after all. He was speaking to a stray dog he'd only just encountered. Then the strangest thing happened. The animal locked eyes with him and held his gaze. In that unspoken moment, Leon could have sworn the German Shepherd was communicating, not in barking or whimpering, but in a language that transcended words. It was as though the dog was saying, "Please, don't leave me." Leon's heart clenched. He had no intention of abandoning this creature to the uncertain fate of the streets, especially not when the dog seemed to be reaching out in its own quiet way. Gently, he stroked the shepherd's head. Dirt streaked the once proud fur, and the dog's ribs pressed against its sides like a half-forgotten xylophone. It had clearly been fending for itself for a while. Leon could feel the dog's heart beating beneath his palm, nervous yet full of hope. Without fully understanding why, Leon decided he could not walk away. "Come on, boy," he whispered, rising to his feet and motioning for the dog to follow. He didn't own a leash or even have much experience with dog handling, but the German Shepherd seemed to trust him enough to trot behind, maintaining a polite distance as they navigated out of the park. Central Park West buzzed with traffic, and the dog shrank from the noise, pressing itself closer to Leon's leg. Stray dogs were not a common sight here. Most were quickly rescued by locals or taken in by animal control. Leon considered the possibility that the dog might have run away from a home, or worse, been abandoned. He decided to stop by a local pet store near 71 Street, a place he knew called Pet Haven, to grab some essentials. The store had bright fluorescent lights and shelves packed with everything a dog could want, from squeaky toys shaped like squirrels to gourmet biscuits in colorful packaging. Unsure of the dog's tastes, Leon purchased a bag of basic kibble, a collapsible bowl, and a makeshift collar and leash. The German Shepherd waited anxiously outside, peering through the glass door, its eyes never leaving Leon's figure. On his way out, an employee named Melanie paused. "Is that your dog?" she asked, a note of curiosity and warmth in her voice. Leon hesitated, looking at the German Shepherd. "I guess he is. Now," he replied uncertainly, and the dog's ears twitched in response, as though it understood him perfectly. Melanie crouched and let the dog sniff her hand. "He's so sweet," she observed. "He looks like he's been through a rough patch, though. You should get him checked by a vet if you can." Leon nodded. "Yeah, I'll do that," he promised, realizing in that moment how protective he already felt toward this dog he had just met. It was as if the German Shepherd had been waiting for him specifically, silently calling him across the hustle of city life. That evening, Leon took the dog, who he decided to name Bruno, to a veterinary clinic near West 80 Honest Street. The staff was gentle, and Leon felt a pang of guilt at the dog's nervous trembling. After a thorough exam, Dr. Kaplan, a soft-spoken veterinarian with grey hair, informed Leon that Bruno was underweight but otherwise in surprisingly good condition. No microchip, no collar scars, nothing to identify a past owner. "Do you want me to call the local shelter?" Dr. Kaplan asked. "They can help place him if you're unable to keep him." Leon paused, glancing at Bruno, who lay on the exam table, large paws folded, ears drooping. Even though the rational part of his brain screamed that adopting a dog was expensive, time-consuming, and possibly out of his comfort zone, his heart insisted otherwise. There was a connection he could neither ignore nor fully explain. "No," Leon said quietly, "I'll keep him." And so Bruno came home with him. Leon's modest apartment wasn't large, just a small living room, kitchenette, bedroom, and a cramped bathroom. But it was cozy, with warm amber lighting and a bookshelf overflowing with novels and writing manuals. At first, Bruno explored each corner with a cautious sniff, as if he couldn't believe he now had a roof over his head. Leon laid out a folded blanket on the floor, setting a water bowl and fresh food nearby. The dog, tail wagging softly, tentatively curled up, his eyes never leaving Leon. There was gratitude in Bruno's gaze, and Leon felt a swell of warmth in his chest he couldn't recall feeling before. That night, Leon worked on a freelance article for a local magazine, occasionally glancing at Bruno. The dog would stare back as though he were silently asking 1,000 questions. Each time, Leon felt compelled to speak, to reassure him that everything would be okay. "We'll be fine," he murmured at one point, more to himself than to Bruno. "We'll figure it out." Over the next few days, Leon adjusted to the rhythm of having Bruno around. Their morning walks became a new ritual. Instead of sleeping in, Leon would wake early to the sound of gentle whining or the tick-tick of claws on the hardwood floor. Together, they'd roam the quieter parts of Manhattan at sunrise, discovering how the city felt before the throngs of people woke up. Leon found himself growing stronger in mind and body, an unexpected side effect of daily exercise and the constant awareness that another living being depended on him. Bruno, for his part, seemed to blossom under Leon's care. His coat, once dull and patchy, began to shine, and his eyes held a renewed energy. Neighbors in Leon's building, who had barely acknowledged him before, now stopped to ask about the striking German Shepherd with the soulful gaze. Leon felt a new sense of belonging, not only to Bruno, but to his own life in the city. It was as if, by caring for another creature, Leon found a deeper purpose in the daily grind. Weeks turned into months. Bruno's presence in Leon's apartment grew from a novelty to a comforting constant. After finishing a big deadline, Leon took Bruno for an afternoon walk through Central Park, tracing the path where they'd first met. The air was crisp autumn, tipping into the first hints of winter. A swirling mosaic of leaves crunched underfoot, and a thin veil of ice had begun to form around the edges of the lake. They stopped near a bench overlooking the water. Bruno sat close to Leon, pressing his side against his caretaker's leg. It was a gesture of warmth and connection, one that had become an unspoken part of their bond. Leon found himself reflecting on how much had changed since that fateful day. He used to feel adrift in his own life, writing articles that paid the bills but rarely stirred his passion, lacking direction in a city that often felt too big. But with Bruno, there was a sense of grounding and quiet assurance. He felt needed, seen. Then it happened again, that unwavering eye contact. Bruno looked up at Leon in such a profound, soulful way that Leon couldn't help but feel that the dog was trying to convey a message. It wasn't the typical doggy glance of hunger or the playful mischief of wanting to chase a squirrel. Instead, there was depth and urgency there, as though Bruno wanted Leon to understand something crucial about life, about himself. In that heartbeat of a moment, Leon recalled the first time they'd locked eyes. How could a dog speak so eloquently without a single bark? He felt a sensation akin to a quiet voice, resonating in his mind, not in words, but in emotions, a gentle wave of comfort, belonging, and a subtle plea to trust in this bond. It felt almost mystical, but it wasn't frightening. It was reassuring, as if Bruno was saying, "You are not alone, and neither am I." Leon found himself wondering more about Bruno's history. Where had he come from? How had a dog so gentle become a stray in a sprawling city like New York? One crisp afternoon, he decided to take Bruno to a park event hosted by the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, ASPCA. They were offering free microchip scans for strays, along with adoption drives and canine training demonstrations. Leon wasn't expecting to discover Bruno's backstory, but curiosity tugged at him. They moved through a swirl of people and dogs of all shapes and sizes, purebreds, mixed breeds, puppies bounding with excitement, older dogs with graying muzzles. Bruno kept close to Leon's side, his ears perked but calm. At the microchip station, a volunteer scanned Bruno once again, just in case. The machine beeped, and for a second, Leon's heart skipped. Could Bruno have a hidden past waiting to be reclaimed? The volunteer said, frowning at the screen. It's picking up something, but it's not linking to any database record. Could be an old chip that was never properly registered. Leon felt both relief and a tinge of disappointment. Part of him had hoped to find some closure or an explanation, yet another part was afraid that someone might appear and claim Bruno, wrenching him away. As the volunteer made a note in a folder, Bruno nudged Leon's hand as if to say, "It's okay. We have each other." On the walk home, Leon's mind churned with thoughts. He imagined Bruno's former life, a family that might have cared for him, or perhaps neglected him. The dog's keen intelligence and gentle demeanor hinted at training and love, but something had led to him wandering alone in Central Park. Amid the swirl of speculation, Leon realized that while Bruno's past might remain a mystery, the future they were building together was every bit as real and significant. That night, Leon sat on the floor with Bruno by his side, stroking the dog's ears. He spoke to Bruno the way a parent might speak to a child, or a friend to another friend. He found solace in the simple act of confiding his worries and aspirations to a listener who responded only with quiet attentiveness and warm eyes. Leon realized that through caring for Bruno, he was also healing parts of himself. His once lonely existence now had purpose. Every day began and ended with the knowledge that Bruno was there, waiting, tail thumping softly against the floor, ready to explore the world anew with him. A few months later, life threw Leon a curveball. A major freelance contract fell through without warning, leaving him scrambling for stable income. Tension seeped into the small apartment, rent loomed, bills piled up, and Leon's search for new opportunities felt like screaming into an echo chamber. The city that had once excited him now loomed as an intimidating giant. In the midst of financial uncertainty, Bruno's unwavering companionship became Leon's anchor. Each morning, Bruno greeted him with a wagging tail, a gentle reminder that they would face the challenges together. Leon poured his anxiety out during their walks in Central Park, occasionally stopping to watch buskers perform near Bethesda Terrace or to feed ducks along the shoreline. The fresh air and Bruno's calming presence helped Leon regain focus. He started applying for more diverse writing gigs, product descriptions, ghostwriting for blogs, even short fiction for websites. Slowly, the tide began to turn. He landed a few small jobs that, while not glamorous, paid enough to keep the lights on and food in Bruno's bowl. Late nights found him bent over his laptop, Bruno lying at his feet, often resting his chin on Leon's slippers. Whenever Leon felt the weight of doubt creeping in, he would look down to see Bruno's patient eyes, reminding him that, in spite of everything, there was still goodness to hold on to. Eventually, a bigger opportunity emerged. A national magazine needed a feature story on the relationship between humans and their canine companions. The editor had read some of Leon's previous work and felt his empathetic writing style would suit the theme perfectly. Thrilled, Leon poured his heart into the assignment, drawing from his own experiences with Bruno. He wrote about the intangible ways dogs communicate through body language, loyalty, and those soulful eyes that often convey more emotion than words ever could. A few weeks after submission, the magazine accepted his piece, offering a generous paycheck that eased his financial concerns. The morning the check arrived, Leon found himself hugging Bruno in the living room, tears pricking the corners of his eyes. It wasn't just about the money or the writing credit, it was a triumph over adversity, a testament to how far they had come together. Bruno licked his hand, eyes bright with shared joy. It felt as though they had conquered a trial, forging an even stronger bond in the process. With his finances stabilizing, Leon turned his focus to offering Bruno the life he deserved. They began attending basic obedience classes together, learning to communicate commands like sit, stay, and heel. Bruno excelled, impressing the instructors with his intelligence and eagerness to please. In a twist of fate, Leon discovered the classes were not just about teaching the dog, but also about teaching him patience, consistency, and the power of positive reinforcement. Each success in the classroom felt like a small victory in their shared journey. On weekends, Leon and Bruno took the subway to explore other corners of New York City, Brooklyn Bridge Park, Riverside Park, and the scenic views along the Hudson River. Bruno never showed signs of aggression or fear, only curiosity, as though he had always been meant to explore the world with Leon by his side. When strangers or fellow dog owners approached, Bruno was reserved yet polite, often leaning into Leon's leg for reassurance. Leon felt a quiet pride in seeing how well Bruno adapted, how he seemed genuinely happy now. Meanwhile, Leon's writing career continued to grow. The feature article about human-canine bonds turned into one of the magazine's most popular pieces of the season. Readers sent in heartfelt letters about their own relationships with dogs, and Leon realized how universal and deeply personal these bonds could be. People saw themselves in the story of a lonely writer who found purpose through rescuing a stray. The editor hinted at future assignments, even suggesting Leon consider expanding the article into a book. The idea both thrilled and terrified him. One late afternoon, Leon sat in his apartment with notes scattered all around. He was researching dog behavior, therapy dog training, and the psychological benefits of canine companionship. Bruno lay at his side, occasionally nudging a note or blinking at him with those soulful eyes. Leon couldn't help but grin. "We're really doing this, Bruno," he said, voice tinged with wonder. "We're writing our story." And so each keystroke carried not just words, but emotion. Leon detailed how Bruno's eyes had spoken to him that first day, how that silent language had woven a bond of trust between them. He wrote about the transformations he had witnessed in Bruno, in himself, and in the people around them who were touched by the dog's gentle spirit. Whenever he hit a snag in his writing, he looked at Bruno and remembered that no obstacle was too great when they faced it together. Months rolled by, and winter's chill gave way to the tentative warmth of spring. Bruno now had a glossy coat, strong muscles, and an exuberance that showed in every bounding step. Leon's new writing projects thrived, and the once unfathomable notion of penning a book about human-animal connections had become a real possibility. Offers trickled in, including an invitation from a reputable publisher to turn his magazine feature into a full-length work. One afternoon, Leon and Bruno returned to the very spot in Central Park where they had first met. The air was sweet with budding flowers, and children laughed as they flew kites in the distance. Standing under the shade of a stately oak, Leon felt an almost cinematic sense of déjà vu. He recalled the frightened, underfed dog who had trembled just a few feet away. Now Bruno stood proud and healthy, tail wagging gently. They locked eyes once more, and Leon was overwhelmed by an emotion he could hardly name: gratitude, love, perhaps something bordering on awe. He knelt and placed a hand on Bruno's neck, ruffling the thick fur. "Thank you," Leon whispered, voice catching in his throat. He thought of the hard times they had endured, Bruno's initial fear, Leon's financial struggles, the nights of self-doubt, and the mornings of renewed hope. Through it all, they had communicated in a way that transcended speech, forging a bond that would shape Leon's life in ways he never could have predicted. Bruno leaned in, pushing his snout under Leon's arm. Their connection was as strong as ever, vibrant and true. This was not just the story of a stray dog and the man who rescued him. It was the story of two souls finding each other in a sprawling city, healing wounds both visible and unseen, and emerging stronger together. Leon realized, with a rush of warmth flooding his chest, that Bruno had spoken to him on that first day and every day since, not just with his eyes, but with the steadfast devotion of his entire being. Looking out over the park, Leon imagined the next chapter of their journey. He would share their story with the world, how one extraordinary German Shepherd had shown him what resilience and genuine connection looked like, how a silent language could speak volumes, and how, in saving a dog, a man could also save himself. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Leon and Bruno's story, a testament to the quiet miracles that can unfold when trust is offered and compassion is shown. Their bond speaks not only to the power of a dog's unconditional love, but also to the resilience we find within ourselves when we dare to open our hearts. If this story touched you, inspired you, or made you believe in the promise of second chances, I invite you to share it with someone who might need a little hope in their life today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more stories of courage, devotion, and personal growth. Each act of engagement helps bring more tales of love and hope to those who need them. Thank you for being a part of this journey, and never forget that sometimes the quietest messages can speak the loudest, if only we take the time to listen.